Hello, and welcome to today's talk where we're going to cover how to use a private investigator in a family law case, especially during COVID. My name is Regina DeMeo, and I'm a family law attorney in Maryland and DC. And I'm really excited to have Ken D'Angelo, who heads Target Investigations in Maryland. He is a former Marine and police officer who's been doing this for over 28 years. He is certified as a private investigator in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Ken, thanks so much for being here.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of us would like to know during COVID, has it gotten easier or harder for you to investigate infidelity cases?
Um, I guess I'm happy to report from a business standpoint that infidelity and adultery are alive and well, even during a pandemic. We've been quite busy over the last year. As far as making it harder or easier for us, I'd have to say it's been a little easier because the people who are engaged in these activities, whether it be cheating on a spouse or having some sort of addiction that they're not telling their spouse about, their options have been limited as far as what they can do when they leave the house. So it's made it a little easier for us to determine, if something is going on or not. Bars and restaurants have been closed for the most part, public areas. So, it's been a little more obvious to us, I guess is the best way to put it, when someone has left the house, what they're doing, and if they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. So I guess it's been a little easier.
Okay. And what about with child custody cases? Because I know sometimes you're brought in to work on those as well.
Absolutely. I mean, adultery in infidelity cases only makes up about 25% of what we do. A larger percentage of our cases are child custody related, because most of our cases are attorney referrals. So the attorneys believe that it would be advantageous for the client to hire us to document a certain behavior. So of course, since COVID came along, early last year, we've gotten a lot more cases related to how a spouse or former spouse is treating the children when they're in their care and custody. So are they, being mindful of the restrictions put on by CDC with the wearing masks when they're in, out and about? Or are they practicing social distancing? Or are they instead taking their children over to other people's houses for parties and whatnot? So we've had quite a few of those cases in the last year where we're just, sometimes, just checking for a client to see if the other spouse is or other parent is doing the right things, or sometimes they know that they're not doing the right things and they need it documented.
Got it. So what kind of tactics do you normally employ when you're gathering the evidence? Is it GPS? Like, what do you use?
We use a lot of tactics that most people would expect, sort of the old school stuff when it comes to tailing, team tailing. We also do surveillance, which shouldn't come as any surprise. In the last 10, 15 years, we started using GPS vehicle tracking when it's legally allowable. So we will use that to make us more efficient, more cost effective for the client to see when someone's out and about in their vehicle, and we can kind of tell what they're doing and respond. We also do social media monitoring, as many people are aware. People are on these social media sites nowadays, and then posting things and whatnot. So we monitor those sites, and if we can see something that helps the client, we document it. We also do database research, which shouldn't come as any surprise. We have access to several subscription databases, also motor vehicle records, credit bureaus, all kinds of stuff. So we do research on people as well. Some of the other things that people might not be aware of is we use some remote hidden cameras nowadays, because they've made camera equipment very small and able to hide in almost anything. So we do put some cameras around here and there to document what someone's doing. We also started doing digital forensics on personal electronic devices probably about 10 years ago. Again, a lot of legal stipulations to that. You can't just
Right.
steal someone's device and go through it. So, all the checks and balances all have to be in line before we would do something like that. We even started using aerial drones recently to fly
Wow.
over properties. Had to get the licensing for that and everything from the FAA, but we did that, and we would use that in just sort of an intelligence gathering capacity. You can't use such a thing to follow somebody around, unlike we see in television or in the movies.
Right.
But you can fly one around to check out an area, to see what the layout is. We might do something like that if the Google satellite photos aren't very good, which when you get away from the city, you would find in Google Maps that the satellite photography isn't very good. There's no street views and that sort of thing. So we might use drones to fill in the blanks there. So that's kind of exciting to us because it's fairly new.
Right.
Mhm.
So what kind of self-help tactics do people use that make your job harder?
Okay. Well, I always recommend that a client pay attention to what their spouse or partner is telling them, to document things, to snoop a little, just, look around, be aware, look at statements, financial statements, easy pass logs, that kind of stuff to kind of figure out, what someone's doing. But I don't recommend that clients try to do their own investigations, because it actually can backfire and make things a lot more difficult, if it doesn't work out for them. And it also, when you're an involved party, as you know, Regina, when you're an involved party in the case, you can't really submit your own evidence of surveillance or tailing or whatnot. So the judges won't allow it. It's not admissible. So I don't recommend the clients go out and follow their spouse around or their partner around, but just pay attention and relay that information, to their attorney or to their investigator so that they can, use that, to assist them in working on their case. But so that's where it comes in. But of course, I have clients that it's very difficult when you suspect that something's going on in your relationship that's not right. It's very difficult not to say something about it to that partner or to that spouse. So of course, I have the clients that just keep asking the same questions, trying to get a confession out of their spouse or partner. And then, after a couple of times, it's not going to work. It's just going to make that person aware that they're being suspected of something. And it's also going to probably make them a better liar. So one thing I have to tell some of my clients is when they keep saying, well, I asked my wife about this and I asked her about this and I asked her about that. And so, okay, well, you realize you're just making it harder for us because now she knows that you are checking her, let's say, Facebook page, because you've asked her about what she's posting on her Facebook page. So that kind of thing. So I would tell clients to just resist the temptation to just keep asking, the party about the certain activity, because after a certain point, it's still only going to make it worse.
Yeah, no, that is great advice because I've seen it a lot. People, once they're confronted, deny it, but then they get much smarter about how to hide it.
Yeah, and it's human nature, of course, and I can't say that I would be able to control myself either if I were in that situation. So I understand, you and I, we deal with this as our profession. We're in this field, so we see it from a different perspective. But of course, when it's happening to us in our own relationship, it's very difficult to not say something or, bring up the fact that they're texting someone when you know that they're texting someone and they're denying that they're texting someone. It's very difficult. So in some regards, the client has the harder job, to keep control of themselves. So I would say that's probably the biggest issue when it comes to, people that I'm working for. They just, can't help themselves.
So, in your experience, once people have the evidence, right, confirming that there is an affair going on, how many would you say of those actually pursue a divorce?
Well, as I said before, most of our cases are attorney referrals. So a large percentage of our clients do, or either some of them are already pursuing a divorce and they just need the evidence, for whatever reason the attorney decides. So it's not, you know, I don't hear a lot of times once we're done doing what we do, I don't have much contact with the client after that. And they don't call me back and say, oh, I got a divorce or whatever. But I will say that some clients over the years have come back a second time after we've, documented that their spouse was being unfaithful, and they go away, and maybe a year or 2 years or 3 years later they contact me back and they say, well, I tried to make it work, and it worked for a while, but I think that this activity has started up again. So that certainly has happened. I've even had clients get a divorce after we've finished working on a case, and then marry someone else and come back and ask us to work on the new spouse, because the second spouse is now, you know conducting this type of activity. So, it's sad, but it's a service that we provide. Um, so I would say a large portion of them do, but from my perspective, I'm happy to work for someone that's not going to pursue a divorce. Sometimes the clients just want to know whether something's happening. They're not even ready to hire an attorney yet.
Right.
They just want to know, am I crazy? I'm sensing this, or I see this, and they start putting all these things together, and they just want to, have some, reassurance that maybe something isn't happening, or that they can trust what their spouse is saying. So we do a lot of those too.
So, aside from custody and infidelity issues, are there other things that you are sometimes asked to investigate?
Oh, yes. As I said, you know, adultery and infidelity, probably 25%, but we do a lot of child custody cases, even more than the infidelity stuff. We also do alimony justification and modification cases. That often involves documenting that a former spouse is violating some uh, stipulation in their divorce settlement, like they've moved a new person into the house that my client is paying for, and part of their settlement was that they would continue to live alone. And so sometimes we have to go out and document that
Okay.
the former spouse now has a new love interest, and they've moved them into the house and that sort of thing. So that's what that is. We also do a lot of uh, addiction related cases, whether it be alcohol or drugs, prescription drugs, gambling, just about anything you can imagine. So sometimes, the spouse or the clients want to know whether this activity is going on or not. They don't feel that their spouse or their partner is being honest with them about it. So we do a lot of that. And we also do a mixed bag of other things, which can include anything from locating people, family members, usually for litigation, um, background checks, asset searches for hidden assets, and we also do process serving. So
Wow.
it keeps us busy.
Yeah. Well, that's why I've stayed in business for 29 years.
Yes. Now, we also started doing the digital forensics, which has really taken off recently. As we all know, that technology has, expanded considerably day by day. And so one of the things that we are doing now a lot of is what we call digital security assessments. And I have two computer forensic examiners that work for me, and we meet with clients to review their electronic devices, because often, when you're in a relationship, you're sharing accounts, emails, you're
Passwords.
sharing devices, you have one laptop and you're both using and so forth. And then if the couple splits, we get a lot of complaints. The client doesn't understand how their former partner or spouse knows everything they're doing, everything they're saying, everything they're writing. And a lot of people don't understand how all these accounts and devices and so forth are linked. So we do this assessments. It takes about 2 to 3 hours. We meet with the client, we have them bring their devices, and we just go through everything that we can with them to help them sort it out, see if something's going on a device, someone accessing their email that they're not aware of, or has someone put some sort of application on their phone that's monitoring what they're doing on their phone. And a lot of times it's something very innocent that they're not aware of, like the Apple Find My Phone. Of course, they didn't realize that their spouse could track them using their cell phone, or the concierge service in their vehicle. They didn't know that their spouse set up this account so they could tell where the car was all the time. So it's
Oh, wow.
taken a lot of taken off recently, I should say,
Yeah,
because it's become very popular.
that's amazing.
Mhm.
If people want to contact you for further information, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way is to visit our website. Not only is there contact information for us there, but there's also a lot of information about the different aspects of what we do, even some of the legal requirements and so forth. They can do a lot of learning there on the website. So the website is target-investigations.com. And so they can do there, and they can do some research. And there's also a list of local attorneys that we recommend and that we use that they can check out. The one thing I will tell anyone is, if you're going to contact an attorney or an investigator about your case, be very careful how you do that, because we're seeing more and more cases where clients contact us and their spouse is monitoring their communications.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you use a cell phone, someone else's cell phone, or use a work phone, and call the attorney to discuss these kind of issues, or to call the investigator. Don't assume that your email is secure and start emailing all these people, because it often isn't. And the best way is just not to use it, and to be careful who you talk to about this stuff.
Makes sense. That's great advice.
Sure.
Thanks so much for doing this today.
Hey, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. And if you want to contact Ken for further information, it's Target Investigations. Thanks so much, Ken. Have a great day.
Thank you.